Cindy Lamb Publications presents I'm Not Mad Anymore, A Shift in Judgment. The true story of tragedy, revenge, and crazy grace. Written and narrated by Cindy Lamb on YouTube, Substack, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on cindylamb.com. Or just Google my name, Cindy Lamb. That's Cindy with 2 I's and Lamb as in Mary had a little. And thanks for listening. (1971), 41 Glidden Avenue, West Ellicott, New York. She wrapped both arms around me and rocked me as I sat trembling and weeping on the edge of my bed. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" she whispered in my ear. "I want you to know that no matter what you do, what choice you make, I am with you. I love you no matter what, and I will always support your decision," my mom said. For 65 years, she wrapped both arms around me, wiped my brow with a cool cloth, and held me up no matter what. By the time I left middle school and entered 9th grade, Mrs. Berg and the 4 O's, the 400s, the cool kids from Lakewood, rebuked my efforts to become a Southwestern Central High School JV cheerleader. "I'm as good or even better than Lori Samples, and she got in, and I didn't," I whined to my mom. "Well, after what you did," my dad butted in, "you'll just have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps." I just wanted to scream at him. I wanted to haul him off and belt him a good one. But I did not, of course. He had his own problems, too. I took a boy chill pill in 8th... Jesus. Place to place for me to do much else but buckle down on my schoolwork and pack and move and pack and move again and again. By the time I was in 10th grade, we settled on 41 Glidden Avenue in West Ellicott, a high-end suburb of Jamestown. That's when I met Rob Moore at Brajota's Market on Fairmount Avenue. I was in line at the register when I noticed a cute boy in front of me holding 2 small wheels of basket cheese. I had basket cheese in my cart, too. "Do you like fried basket cheese, too?" I asked him, trying to strike up a conversation. But he ignored me, or maybe he didn't hear me, or maybe he was just rude. "Hey, don't you go to Southwestern?" I said, a little too loud to ignore. "Yes," he said, but he barely turned his head to answer me, like he didn't want anyone to see he was talking to me. This annoyed me. So again, I said forcefully, "Do you like fried basket cheese, too?" This time, he turned all the way around and grinned, realizing there's no escaping me. "Yes, I like fried basket cheese, too," he answered reluctantly. "Aren't you Steve Bush's sister?" he asked. I got this question a lot, since Steve was 2 years older than me, tall, lithe, handsome, and Steve was one of the cool kids. He was super friendly and funny cocky. Everyone seemed to know him, and everyone had a Steve story to tell. "Yep, that's me, but don't tell anybody. I hear he's got a bad reputation," I said, and I returned his grin. After that, when we saw each other in the hall at school, we'd stop and talk for a minute, and we became friends. And then one day, Rob asked me to go to the prom. I was shocked, but I said yes, I would love that. Rob's classically handsome face sported a large brow, which made him look more mature and often pensive. But Rob was popular, mostly because his parents bought him a brand new yellow Camaro with a black Landau top. What a cool car. I liked Rob, and after we went to the prom, he was kind of my boyfriend for a while, but he couldn't carry a conversation about nothing. Great-looking guy, cool-looking car, not much in the personality department. The whole boyfriend thing went out the window after Rob invited me to his house to meet his cousin from Jamestown. It was a crispy cold Saturday in March when my brother dropped me off at Rob's house in Lakewood to hang out and meet Rob's cousin, Brian Lake. Before Brian arrived, I went outside to play in the snow. The yard behind Rob's house was the size of a basketball court, lined with towering Norwegian pines and blanketed with a thick layer of gleaming white, pristine, smooth, and silky snow. That snow's about 2 feet, Rob told me. You're going to soak your shoes and pants if you go out in it, he warned. I don't care, I told him. If my pants get wet, I'll just take 'em off, I laughed. I felt like a little snow bunny, hopping here and there. The snow was just right for packing tight snowballs, so I packed and pitched a few at the lanky pine boughs and watched big clumps of snow plop down from the limbs, making craters in the taut snow plain. He's here, Rob yelled from the kitchen door. Come on in, he urged me. Rob liked me because I filled up all the holes his shyness created. And he liked the make-out parts, too. I'm not sure he liked me much beyond that. As I was bending over and whacked off the big chunks of snow stuck to my jeans, a pair of brown leather work boots came into view in front of me. Whoever this is, I thought, is standing pretty darn close to me. I uncurled myself and stood up slowly, and there, standing inches in front of me, is this guy Brian, squeezing himself into my personal space. He had the biggest, bluest eyes, the whitest skin, the reddest cheeks, and a wide, stretchy smile. As our eyes met, he said enthusiastically, I'm Brian, and his hand jutted out from his side, ready to give me a hearty shake. Brian's face reminded me of the gleaming snow in Rob's backyard. His skin was radiant white and drum smooth. I liked him very much right away, and I could tell he liked me very much too. I've been watching you hop around out there, Brian said, smiling and shaking my hand like a jackhammer. What's your name? He asked me. I'm Cindy Bush, I said, reflecting his big smile. I'm Brian Lake, he said. I know, I said, and we kept shaking hands and smiling at one another way too long. I broke up with Rob the next day and took up with Brian the day after that. Brian lived on Broadmoor Street in Jamestown and went to Jamestown High School. He drove a 250 Kawasaki, and if the weather was bad, he drove his parents' big old Bonneville convertible. He smoked Marlboro cigarettes, which did not fit his looks or his personality. Your breath stinks and your clothes reek, and if you don't quit smoking, I swear to God, I'm going to start smoking right now, I yelled at him one day. He pulled out a cigarette from the pack in his flannel shirt pocket and flicked it at me in the big old Bonneville as we were on our way to a party. I lit it in protest. I coughed and choked and hacked. Jesus, what the hell do you get out of this? I gagged. He laughed. And for the next 30 years, I coughed and choked and hacked in protest. Everyone thought Brian was my first real boyfriend, as in old enough to have a boyfriend. But Dan Spring was my first boyfriend, my first real love. But because I was so young, no one took my loyalty and devotion to Dan seriously. Just puppy love is what everyone called it. It was so never puppy love. But who's going to believe anything a 12-year-old girl from Celeron has to say? We were so underestimated, so misunderstood. But Brian was my first in many ways. He was the first boy I was allowed to go to the drive-in with, the first boy I was allowed to ride on a motorcycle with, and the first boy I had sex with. But that took a while to transpire, believe it or not. Carla, I got to ask you something, I said nervously on the phone. Brian and I are going to give ourselves to each other as gifts for Christmas, and I think I think we need I stuttered and stammered. What the hell does that mean? She snarked, louder than hell as usual. And why haven't you called me in like 10,000 years, bitch? She snorted. But she wasn't being nasty. It's just the way a lot of Celeron girls talk. And she was right. I hadn't bothered to call her or talk to her since we moved out of Celeron, and I didn't see her in high school. I think she dropped out. Carla's home life was rough, but she knew a lot of stuff, sex stuff. She said one of her mom's boyfriends taught her all about sex stuff with a book. Plus, I knew she liked boys even more than me. In 6th grade, me and Carla and Debbie Shipley walked home together after school a lot. I learned so much about sex from these girls, even though I had devoured every page of Xaviera Hollander's The Happy Hooker when I babysat for the Lewis boys. One day, Carla decided it was time to tell me everything about how babies are really made. I was stunned. After she was done, she grabbed my Raggedy Ann doll out of my arms and flung her high and far off the Dunham Avenue Bridge. Ann landed face down on the railroad tracks, 50 feet below. "Now that you know the truth, you won't be playing with dolls anymore," she said brusquely. Carla was right. "So, now you say you're going to have sex for the first time and you thought of calling me?" Carla continued. "You mean you didn't do it with Dan in the hut? Everyone knows you did it with Dan in the hut," she said. I didn't feel like arguing with her. She wouldn't believe me even if I said we didn't do it. No one ever believed it. There was always lots of hugging and making out and digit inquisition, but no intercourse, although we were close to it many times. "So, does that mean you're going to do it with this guy?" she said sarcastically. "Like you guys are virgin or something, so doing it is your present to each other? That's getting off cheap," she asserted. "He better give you something more than his dick for Christmas." And she busted a gut laughing. God, she made everything sound so nasty, but she was funny. I cut her off. "We're going to his house Christmas Eve. His parents are going to a Christmas party, and no one will be home. And we need to find a rubber. And I thought maybe you could tell me where I could get one or give me one or..." I continued. "Oh, you won't need that because you can't get pregnant the first time you have sex. Everyone knows that," Carla told me. Oh, I was so relieved. But when I told Brian what Carla said, he thought we should still get one anyway. He said his best friend Steve and his girlfriend Kim were doing it and that his dad always left some in a box under the bathroom sink. "Then go ask him for one," I told Brian. "No way. Then he'll know, and he's got a big mouth, and he's cocky, so he'll tell other people," Brian told me. We drove to the Rexall store near 6th Street and parked. Then we sat in the car and argued for almost an hour about who would go in and ask the pharmacist for a rubber. We finally flipped on it. I lost. I slinked in, wandering skittishly, slowly, toward the pharmacy counter in the back of the store. I picked up hair clips, bobby pins, tampons. I was dawdling, trying to make sure no one was in the store before I reached the pharmacy counter. Excuse me, sir," I stammered again. "Yes," he said, never looking up at me. He was perched high above the counter, so he could see the whole store. "I was wondering if you have..." "Yes," he said, still looking down, counting pills. I need to get, I want to buy, "Do you have a prescription here, young lady?" he said, losing count of his pills and his temper, finally looking up at me. "No, I just need, "What?" he shouted, and raised both hands, palms up, midair. "What do you need?" he hollered. "A rubber!" I roared back at him, not realizing how loud I was because I was so pissed at his rudeness. His eyes bulged wide, and he glared at me. "You are a very bad girl, and you should not be asking for this," he scowled, and he speared each word with his index finger, sending pointed jabs in my direction as he spoke from his perch. "Only bad girls do what you want to do, very bad girls," he bellowed. Then he clenched his thick eyebrows until they formed an ape-sized unibrow that arched over the dark circles under his eyes. His slanderous rant sliced open my gut, and my knees buckled a little. I felt weak and sleazy, dirty. I dropped all the sundries on the counter and turned to rush out the store, but 3 people were standing directly behind me, 2 old ladies and a heavyset man, all with their mouths gaped wide open. "Catch any flies lately?" I cranked off as I ran towards the door. His degrading rant continued to echo throughout the store and in my head for days. I wish Carla would have had a spare rubber in her pocketbook. She said she never went anywhere without one. I wish my mom would have shown me some pictures in a book, like how Carla learned. "This is the man and this is the woman," my mom instructed me one day, with the help of a hot dog and a donut. She inserted the hot dog in the donut hole once and pulled it out. "And that's how babies are made," she told me. After that, I never ate wieners and donuts again at the same time. Carla was wrong. "How did you know?" I sobbed to my mom. "How did you know that I'm pregnant?" I asked her. "Wait here," she said. She left the bedroom, returning quickly with a box of tissues and a cool washcloth, which she gently swept across my forehead and tear-soaked cheeks. "How do you know you're pregnant?" my mom asked me. "I went to the doctor last week and peed in a cup. I just found out today," I sobbed. My mom wrapped me up in her arms again and held me. "I mean it," she said, as she gently held the side of my head to her chest. "I'll be with you no matter what you decide." "I do not want to have a baby now, Mom. I'm only 16. I don't want to have a baby." "Shh, shh, shh. Your dad is here, in the garage, I think." Mom got up, walked in the living room, scouted the room for my dad, and quickly returned. "I don't think we should tell your dad," she said. "I know," I agreed. "But there's a part of me that wants to talk to him, to tell him," I told her. "You'll crush him if you do," Mom said. Mom always protected my dad from bad news. I did not have the baby. It was devastating, sickening, traumatizing, heartbreaking. But Brian and I did not break up. We talked about it, cried about it, lamented over it for the next 3 years and beyond. As devoted and dedicated as Brian was to me, and no matter how much we loved each other, he was determined to fulfill his dream of joining the military. He signed up for the Air Force early in his senior year, completed all his high school credits by March, and left for basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in April. I was beyond bereaved after he left. I wrote him every single day, and he wrote me too. God, I was nuts without him. He came home after basic training, and his parents were so angry with us, with me mostly, because Brian and I stole away every moment we could to be together, alone. We went to his dad's hunting cabin in Frewsburg a lot, and the drive-in a lot. "As soon as I get settled in Denver, I want you to come out and be with me," he said. "Just give me about 6 months to get settled in school and—" "6 months? Are you crazy? I'm not going to wait around here for 6 months," I exclaimed. We argued about this for a few days and settled on 2 months. Well, he settled on 2 months. 2 days after he flew out to Denver, I packed a few clothes in my '67 Dodge Dart and headed west for Colorado. I had saved $217 and had about $75 from graduation gifts. I figured that was more than enough to get me out there if I slept in my car for a night or two. It took me 4 days to get there, and I had a total blast driving cross country and getting the hell out of Jamestown. I met some great people, too, especially truck drivers. If they were broke down on the side of the highway, I always stopped to see if I could help. And whenever I pulled over to the shoulder on a highway, there was always a gracious and helpful truck driver pulling over to stop me. I have great reverence for truck drivers. But you should have seen the look on Brian's face when I walked into the pool room on base. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention to Brian that I was on my way out there. What the? How? What are you doing here? He squeaked out. How did you get on base? He asked. How long are you staying? He started to laugh as he jogged around the pool table and then lunged into a big Brian hug, surrounding me with his big Brian warm body. Forever, I laughed. I'm staying forever, I told him. When I first arrived in Denver, I found Ava Rubenstein. Thank God. Ava was a large woman who lived in her tattered white t-shirt, flowered cotton underwear, and shoeless wide feet. She was beautiful, stunning, really. The long black ringlets in her hair encircled her face like a perfect frame that highlighted her almost almond-shaped dark chocolate eyes. She lived in the top apartment of a brick 2-story home off of Colfax and Broadway near Lincoln Park. A good friend of mine from Jamestown knew Ava, gave me her address, and told me that if I needed a place to stay, Ava would just love me, and I would love her. Hi, I chirped at the woman who answered the door. Not yet, she said, in a deep, warm, sexy voice, and then she began to giggle. Come on in. I'm Ava, she said. And you are? I'm Cindy. And as I walked inside, I quickly tried to explain to Ava that I was Kathy's friend from Jamestown and that Kathy had given me her address. But Ava had no idea who Kathy was and didn't seem to care a bit who I was. Whatever, she undulated. Come on in, make yourself to home, she said. Kathy was right. I loved Ava. How cool was this? The apartment was sparsely decorated. A king-size bed sat in the middle of the living room with no sheets or pillowcases on the pillows. A plastic end table with an ashtray full of butts was next to it. A tiny black and white TV sat perilously on a flimsy dented metal TV tray. No curtains, no rugs. That's it. Sparse. Here's your bedroom. Ava pointed at the bed. Mine's in the back. And here's the kitchen, and here's the bathroom. I gotta finish watching Donahue. Enjoy, she said, as she walked into her bedroom and shut the door. I barely had time to tell her about Brian before she went back into her room. Hey, Ava, is it okay if I bring Brian over here tonight? I yelled through the door. The more the merrier, she said. Brian and I spent a lot of time at Ava's. Brian and I and Ava all had a lot in common. We loved one another. We loved to smoke pot. And we loved the mountains. One thing Brian and I did not have in common: possessiveness. Brian had to know where I was and what I was doing all day long, all the time. And his obsession was thinly veiled with the excuse, I worry about you and just want to make sure you're okay, he'd plead. He would actually call Ava's house incessantly, and it drove Ava nuts, to the point where she told us, it's time for you two to move on. Eventually, Brian and I got a nice apartment with two of his best buds from his training school, Frankie and Matt, who I also loved. We all loved music, too, and spent hour upon hour listening to Stevie Wonder's Fulfilling This First finale, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and Joni Mitchell's Court and Spark, my all-time favorite album. The men went to school during the day, and I was on the night shift from 6 p.m. till 3 a.m. as a candy packer at Russell Stover's Candy Factory in Denver, just like my idol, Lucille Ball. But this was not a good fit for me. I gained 21 pounds. in 3 months. 3 for the box, 1 for me. 4 for the box, 2 for me. And so on. And smoking pot before work at a candy factory was never a good idea. One Sunday morning, after a Saturday night party with friends, the four of us decided to visit Pete's restaurant down on Colfax. In second place for loving Denver, Pete's famous omelet smothered in green chili, the only way to cure a hangover. We sat at a warm table next to the windows, and as usual, we all started talking about the things we did as kids before we met each other, or stuff we did with our family. It wasn't long before Brian chimed in about his dad's deer hunting cabin in Frewsburg, and he chatted up all the parties and fun he had there. And it wasn't long after that when I asked him, "So, did you do any deer hunting with your dad, Brian?" He gave me the side eye and said, "Yes, but And how many deer did you shoot, Brian?" I cut in. "None, but I understand your girlfriend, Cindy Bush, also hunted deer. And how many deer did your girlfriend shoot so far, Brian?" And I gave him a big toothy smile. "2," he said flatly. "How many?" I asked again, and held my spoon up to his lips. "Could you please speak into the mic so that we can all hear you?" I smirked. Frankie and Matt just busted out laughing. Then I watched my spoon microphone slip through my fingers and splat into Brian's green chili omelet. That's all I remember. I saw a body violently twitch and jerk, strapped tight on a gurney in the back of an ambulance. The body was scream crying, but didn't have a head. "Nurse! Doctor! Nurse! She's awake!" Brian yelled. She stopped! Take these things off of her!" he demanded. "Now!" he screamed. Brian and Frankie and Matt were all standing next to my gurney in the ER. They were pale. Their eyes were wide with fear and amazement. "What's going on? What happened?" I mumbled. Why are these things on? Why am I here?" I asked. "You had a seizure," Brian said. "But you're going to be okay now. It's okay. We're all here to take care of you," he told me. And I believed him. I spent the night in the hospital. They ran a bunch of tests on my brain, but didn't find any evidence of epilepsy or heart disease. There were 4 more seizures. During one of them, I was totally conscious. I could hear everyone. I could see everything, including myself. But I could not stop my body from flailing, from flopping and quivering. I could not respond to everyone who was yelling at me. I thought I was dying. This tore up Brian. He was missing work, and when he was at work, he could not concentrate. Months passed, but one Sunday night after I made mac and cheese and cut up wieners, Brian insisted, "You gotta go home and get some help. Get your mom and dad to help you," Brian said to me. "I can't take this pressure all the time worrying about you. I can't think or concentrate on school," he said. "I might fail out of the program." I knew he was right. I knew he was having trouble. I packed up my dart the next day and went to stay with Ava until I could get home. "Having another breakup for good, are we?" Ava asked me. "Not really," I said. "I just need to go home for a little bit. We just need a break, but I'm coming back," I told her. I didn't tell Ava about the seizures. I just didn't want to. I quit my job at the candy factory and got a job bartending at the Safari Lounge. It was a few blocks from Ava's house, and Ava was friends with the owners. The tips were good, and I figure I could make money faster, get home sooner, and beat feet back to Bryan and to Denver quicker. One night, just before closing, I laid bare my woes about Bryan to the managers of the Safari, a guy named Jim, who was well groomed and in his mid-40s, and his wife Sheila, who I liked very much. He was Jim Jr. His dad, Big Jim, owned the bar. Big Jim was 62, and we got along famously. He was extraordinarily handsome, tan, virile, muscular, and he smelled romantic. And Big Jim had lots of toys, a cabin in the mountains, snowmobiles, horses, and he always smelled romantic. Wait, did I already say that? Big Jim accidentally kissed me in the kitchen one day, and I didn't mind a bit. We kind of messed around a little bit. I didn't really think about his age because he never looked like it. He never acted like it. He was just so virile and so much fun to be around. And he smelled great. He was at the bar that night of my Bryan lamentations, which he had heard many times before. "You know what you need?" Big Jim asked me. I had an idea of what he was going to say. "You need a stiff shot of wild turkey," he demanded, and slapped the bar with every word. "Oh, no, I've seen enough craziness after I pour shots of that stuff in here," I told him. "Plus, I've never even drank whiskey before." Oh, well, that's all they needed to hear. Big Jim kept at me, goading and cajoling me to just throw one back. And so did Jim Jr. Finally, I acquiesced. We closed the bar, Big Jim became our personal bartender, and the four of us commenced to getting sauced. I knew they'd all take care of me if I got too hammered, so I said okay. Of course, I had bragged in the past many times of my drinking prowess, and after the initial burn of the first two shots, I started on White Russians to help wash down and soothe the turkey burn from the next 2 or 3 or I don't know. I don't know how many more shots because I don't remember. What I do remember is opening my eyes and seeing 3 massive golden timber beams overhead. What the hell? I thought. Where am I? I wondered. I squinted my eyes and tried to focus, looking around the room without turning my head. Finally, I realized I was in a rustic log cabin in a bedroom, wrapped in a fluffy, feather-soft white blanket with a downy pillow under my head. "Your clothes are in the dryer," was written on a note taped to the lantern-shaped lamp on the bedside table to my left. Under the blanket, my right hand quickly swiped downwards from my neck to my navel. Nothing was there but my skin. I turned my head, looked to the right, and saw the outline of a body on its side, wrapped in what looked like a giant fur coat. I reached over and slowly pulled the top of the fur blanket down. It was the back of Big Jim's curly chestnut hair. I tried to jump out of bed, but my head felt an explosion of gushing blood with each pulse of my heart, pounding and pushing me back in the sack. I waited a few minutes, hoping Big Jim would wake up. Then, hoping he wouldn't, I felt embarrassed and ashamed, wondering what I did, what we did. I thought maybe I could get out of there without facing him. I finally became vertical enough to wrap my blanket around my clothesless body and began the search for the dryer and the phone. After locating the dryer and quickly putting on all my clothes, I tiptoed back to the bedroom, hoping to see Jim at least sitting up. I tried to gently nudge his shoulder to wake him, but he was really out of it. I went back to the kitchen and called Ava. Ava, I whispered. It's Cindy. I'm kind of in a jam, I said. Kinda, Ava said. Do you kinda remember what happened last night? She asked me. No, I said. I remember doing a few shots with Jim and a few. Ava raised her voice. You fell backwards off the bar stool, cracked your head on the floor, started puking everywhere, and then you had a seizure. So they called the ambulance to take you to the ER. Ava sounded mad. Oh, God. Oh, God, you're kidding me, right? I said, but I knew better. I wish. They pumped your stomach for about an hour, and then you waltzed out of there before they... Wait, what? What the hell, Ava? I don't remember any of that. I don't even know where the hell I am. I started crying hard, scared, and feeling sicker by the minute. Calm down. It's okay. You're at Big Jim's house. What did he tell you? Nothing. He's out of it. I tried to wake him up, but he's still asleep. I don't really want to talk to him right now, I said. Where's my car? I asked her. It's parked in front of the lounge. Don't worry. I'll come and get you. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Ava said. I know right where you are. I didn't want to go back to the bedroom again, so I sat at the kitchen table, silently, waiting for Ava, and staring at the stone fireplace, the giant vaulted ceiling, and the swirls of wood grain in the floorboards under my worn-out pleather shoes. After what seemed like forever, I decided to try and wake up Big Jim again before I left. As I made my way to the bedroom, Ava pulled up and tooted the horn twice, lightly. I continued to the bedroom, and still nothing had changed. Jim hadn't moved at all. I walked around the bed, put my hand on his shoulder, and tried to nudge him awake again. Jim, oh, Big Jim, are you sleeping in there? I said softly. He didn't move. I pushed his shoulder a little harder, trying to jolt him to wake up. He didn't respond. Then I put both hands on him, one on his shoulder, one on his hip, and gave him several hard shoves. Big Jim, Big Jim, I called all sing-songy to him. Were you a naughty boy last night? He felt stiff. Jim! Jim! I screamed at him and shook him hard, almost violently. His hands and his arms were folded up near his chest, and when I shoved him, his hands and arms did not unfold. They did not unfurl or fall listlessly from his body. They were stuck in the same position and moved in sync with his neck and his head, like they were all glued together. My heart started racing. My blood began pulsating again, slamming into the top of my head. I tried to reach for a pulse on his wrist. I tried to ignore the chill of his skin, the stiffness in his hand and fingers. But I had no idea where to even look for a pulse. I ran to my pocketbook, took out my mirrored compact, ran back to the bed, and placed the mirror under Big Jim's nose. Nothing. No fog. No mist on the mirror. Nothing. Go! 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 I screamed at Ava as I jumped into the front seat of the car. Go now! Go! Go fast! I kept yelling. Ava floored it and peeled out of the driveway and down the road. What did you steal, Cindy Lou? She laughed. Ava called me Cindy Lou a lot because that's my name, which she always thought was a hoot. Nothing. I stole nothing, I said, monotone. I sat up stiff and straight and looked straight ahead. I know it was a rough night, but I don't think Big Jim did anything that he shouldn't have done, Ava started. Well, if he did, it probably would have killed him, I said, monotone again. What's wrong with you? Ava asked cynically. Old Jim probably can't even get a stiffy, she chuckled. He can now, I said.